who is the CEO and founder of The Inside Man, where he works with trusted advisors to CEOs of $50 million plus companies across the United States. And he's also the co founder of DNA, otherwise known as Digital Niche Agency. Tim is a seasoned executive and consultant who has helped founders achieve nine-figure capital raise and raise their ROAS 10 times. So this basically demonstrates the power of personal branding and strategic growth. So thank you so much, Tim, for being live with us.
More than happy to be here.
So Tim, if you don't mind, I kind of gave you a little bit of an introduction, but if you can tell me a little bit about what you were doing before the Inside Man and what you were doing even before co-founding Digital Niche Agency.
Sure. Yeah. I was the kid with the lemonade stand. So if there's a buck to be made, I always found a way to make a dollar. Whether that was buying skateboards and selling them to my friends or running a silk screen company in my garage as a teenager, selling mixtapes as a DJ, promoting events, doing marketing. I always found a way to start a business. Coffee shops, retail stores, I feel like I've had them all. So by the time I was about 24, 25, I had owned a few businesses and sold a few actually. And people said, how are you doing this? How are you raising money? How are you launching a company? How are you marketing it? So I said, well, I'm going to start a consulting company. I didn't even know what that meant. But I'm just going to help my friends and people in my network start their business and do what I did. So that was, 20 something years ago, and I've never stopped. So along the journey through consulting, advising businesses, I learned early on from writing business plans, doing financial models, raising the capital. Then that morphs into helping companies grow and expand, build operating systems, procedures, the whole bit from being a full operator. And then later stage of my career, which is kind of now where you're meeting me, is helping companies find the exit and prepare for retirement, quite frankly. So I've gone through the whole spectrum as an advisor, and along the journey, I've become an owner in many many companies, taken shares in a lot of my clients' projects or started stuff. So that's where I'm at now. I have my hands in a lot of pots and own a few different businesses and still advise because that's my core strength, and I feel like it's my gift that I'm here to give to the world. So that's what I do.
Awesome. And just beforehand, I was telling you that I was listening to another interview before that you were on, and I heard that you were also in the, correct me if I'm wrong, in the DJ business as well.
Oh, I had a DJ business years ago, and we would do all the events in Hollywood. So I grew up in Los Angeles, so we would work the hills, the Hollywood Hills, and I can't tell you how many celebrity parties that we did, and we would do a lot of tastemaker events. And it started as me and my buddy. We were just DJs and started working in the clubs, and then that worked. We learned there was this whole other private party aspect. So we bought a van and we put our logo on it, and we just built a whole business. And we were young and crazy and making a whole bunch of money and just spending a bunch of money fast. And we didn't really look at it as much of a business as much of a lifestyle hobby kind of thing. But it was a good time.
Nice. Did you go to any school in order to understand business, or did this just come more
No,
from experience?
mostly experience. Um, yeah, I had 2 years of junior college, and that was it. I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. I knew I was going to start businesses. So it didn't make a whole lot of sense for me to spend more time in school. I just wanted to get after it and start doing what I do. Also, in my day, it wasn't like entrepreneurship isn't what it is now. There wasn't entrepreneurship courses. There wasn't, you know, YouTube and Instagram where you can just start watching all these different Gary Vaynerchuk's, and none of that existed. You had small business owners. That was very common. I'm also Hispanic, so in my culture, my community, you start something and you go work really hard, and that's about the extent. It wasn't until I discovered a group called SCORE. It's a division of the SBA. It stands for Senior Council of Retired Executives, and it's a free resource. It wasn't until I met those guys and when I was about 25 or so that I started meeting more sophisticated business owners, and I started learning the game of building and growing and scaling businesses. So I don't really think there was a school that I could have gone to. I mean, you know, I've hired plenty of people with MBAs that don't know anything about business, you know, plenty over the years. So I think the best way if you want to be an entrepreneur is to start spending money, go take the risk, get out there, lose some money, get, you know, get served on a platter, and then do it again and again and again, and you'll find how to do the thing eventually. Um, you know, that would be a starter, I would say.
Yeah, and that's also one of the most daunting things for a lot of entrepreneurs starting. I know from firsthand experience that the losses hit hard, and it's not all entrepreneurship isn't all glamorized
No,
as like
not at
people
all. It's
make
not
it out to be.
glamorous at all. I mean, I think half the people that start businesses should never start a business. I think I don't know what they're thinking, quite frankly, when they get into it. You know, they think they're gonna have freedom, but entrepreneurship isn't about that type of freedom. It's not about time freedom. If anything, you become an entrepreneur because you're so committed to the cause that you don't want freedom. You don't want time. I don't want extra time. I don't like vacations. It gives me anxiety. Most of the successful business owners I know, they have a hard time stepping away because they're so committed to the cause. But I meet a lot of people that start businesses because they're like, well, I want to be my own boss. I don't want someone telling me what to do. It's like, well, everybody's telling you what to do all the time. So what is it that you're really, really after? If you're not after the cause, righting a wrong, making the world a better place in the image that it needs to be made from your lens, you see some gap that needs to be filled, something, and you're so dedicated to that, don't start a business.
Yeah, a lot of people I think are sold that. Even when I was starting off too, I was like sold that yeah, you get to be your own boss, you get to do your own thing, and yeah, if anything, like you want to like get out of the 9 to 5, but if anything, you're working more than
You
nine to
work more.
five.
Statistically, entrepreneurs work, I forgot what the report was. It's like 20 to 30% more than the average employee, and they earn about 20 to 30% less until their business gets going. So if you're prepared to work longer hours and make less than your employees for at least the first 5 years, yeah, come be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, living the dream.
Yeah, living the dream. Exactly.
And the reason that I also brought up the DJ gigs that you got before was because the leap into consulting was, it seems like night and day. Was there like a transition for you into that, or
Well, DJing wasn't my full-time job. It was one of 50 things I was doing.
yeah?
I had an apparel brand. Again, I was silk screening. I was running a marketing agency. Um, you name it. I mean, I had a lot of hustles at the same time. So, all of it came together in a pot. I mean, really, if you go back to my background, I grew up in the streets of Los Angeles and lived in Hollywood. So it's skateboarding, street art, the culture, throwing art shows, and working with celebrities. And it was just all part of the late 90s, early 2000s kind of thing that was going on that I was super integrated in. And I found a way to make money in all that stuff. A lot of my friends worked at magazines, they were editors. So I knew about the advertising, sold a lot of ads, did a lot of PR, did a lot of celebrity product placements because I had a lot of friends that were famous. I grew up in skateboarding. I actually probably worked in skateboarding for the first decade. I owned a skate shop. I ran like 7 other shops. So everyone I knew was either working at a brand, was a celebrity, was a pro skateboarder, was a DJ, was a graffiti artist. It was all part of this culture and this community that I found a way to make money in, that I found a way to build a business in. After a certain point, people from outside of that community started saying, "Hey, can you help us?" Like I didn't know what investment banking was. I didn't know what management consulting was. But it wasn't until people from tech, and that was actually a really big pivotal point, was when Silicon Valley moved down to Silicon Beach. When that happened in like the mid 2000s, right around like 2004, 2005, somewhere in that ballpark, and everybody started moving down, I started meeting investors. I started meeting VCs. I started meeting a lot of people in the tech community, and they were saying, "Hey, we need your help." So it pulled me out of my world, and I started working with all these companies I never thought for a million years I would have an interest in, or if they would find what I do interesting. But we found the relationship, and then as you grow as an adult, you get into more and more and more. And so my projects became bigger. Before you know it, you're working on a gaming company in South America and some, you name it. In those days, it was low tech. There wasn't a whole lot of tech in those days. So a lot of manufacturing, and those are the types of businesses that are largely selling now. Baby boomer business owned and operated. In mass, they're looking to find the exit and retire now. So that's just where the natural transition of my career has gone. But yeah, it's been a wild ride.
That was the original networking and the original.
That was the original network for sure.
And the original go-to-market strategy.
Yeah, I used to work trade shows a lot. Trade show was the hack back in the day. So we would find, and I would speak at a lot of trade shows. So we would find trade shows in fashion, trade shows in sports, trade shows in licensing, and in all these different things. I was able to work with Warner Brothers on projects. Like, you'd meet people at trade shows because you'd show up and there'd be 5,000 brands all in one place. You just spend 3 days walking around, talking to people, networking, doing that whole thing. And then those shows a lot of times were every 6 months. So in between those 6 months, you try to develop as much business as you can, reconnect, do it again, and do it again. So I've largely spent my career building relationships, maintaining those relationships, and then finding opportunities to play my little part in the overall growth.
Nice. Do you think that there's a new shift now in how people are networking, or is that still the go-to?
Well, I mean, look, we're meeting right online. It's hard not to deny building relationships online. Like, I would consider myself an expert relationship builder, a black belt builder, elite level. And I've made excellent contacts online and I have people, and I've done business with people I've never met in person. But I know how to do that. I have the skills of years. I know how to put them in my CRM, how to follow people, how to actually care about them, and actually follow up in a way that, like, I'm sincerely interested in what they're doing. Whether or not I benefit from it, I just want to know them and encourage their growth, and how to follow them and how to keep them in my ecosystem, I know how to do it. So whether I'm doing it online or offline, I'm going to be great at it because I'm intentional about wanting to be great. If you take another person who's terrible at it, they just want to sell you something. They don't care about who you are, and they just want whatever they can get for you in 2 seconds. It doesn't matter if you meet them online or offline. So the medium really doesn't matter. It comes down to, like, the heart. Do you have the right heart and intentionality behind what you're trying to do, and how you're trying to help? Like, if you really want to help me, you're going to find a way to help me. It doesn't matter if we met in person, right? But so often networking is one-sided, which is not networking at all, right? So pick your medium, pick your poison. I think for young people, probably the most important thing you can do is learn how to get in person. The most important. For older people, I think the most important thing you can do is learn how to network online.
That's interesting. Do you think that that for the coming generation, the art is a little bit lost for the in-person interactions?
Yeah, I mean, it's so much of it is person to person, but the younger generation grew up with with the phone right in their face and interacting with it. And the way that you interact is not these deep, in-depth conversations where you're active listening and you're looking for the cues and you're looking for the eye contact and you're picking up, like, did the person show up to the meeting on time? Were they dressed well? Were they completely disheveled? Were they a mess? Were they distracted when we're having our conversation? You don't know any of that stuff when you're young because all your interactions are about, like, 15 seconds, 5 second, 3 second TikTok interactions. So, and then you meet somebody and you're in a DM and you're just talking to people in DM. Maybe it's a bot, maybe it's a real person, but that's how relationships are built. But are they really relationships? Right? Whereas for me, if I'm going to do business with someone and they're running a very large organization, I have to kind of call BS very quick. Otherwise, I'm wasting my time. I got to know in a split second, like, is this person worth my time? And vice versa. I'm understanding that they're going to judge me in a split second about whether or not I'm worth their time. And if we believe each other's are worth enough time for even just a brief 10-minute interaction, then we can get to the next 10 minutes. I always say you win 10 minutes at a time. You're just winning you're earning 10 minutes at a time. I don't know if the younger generation sees it that way. And that's fine. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the old guy with the old ways. And I'm okay with that, by the way. I'm cool to totally be wrong. I just think that from my experience with having employees, having a lot of younger employees and working with a lot of younger, and I would say by younger, let's say 25 and below. Let's use that as a limit. Some of it is experience. You haven't been in the workforce long enough. I would recommend, if you're out there and you're under 25, to go get an in-person job where you have to show up to an office. You need to be accountable. You need to get away from your pajamas, away from your desk. You need to get in a real-world interaction where you can, quite frankly, have someone be harsh and someone can look over your shoulder and tell you you're gonna be that much better. So if you're trying to advance in your career and you're 25, and it's you have two 25-year-olds, one is going to stay at home and work on his computer, and one's going to go into a physical office or work underneath a 35-year-old, a 45-year-old, a 55-year-old. This person is going to get that much further because they're getting real-time interaction, real experience. It's this accountability and responsibility that you're not really getting when you're remote. And I'm all for remote. I love remote, but I'm a responsible human. I can be responsible remote, right? Because I've had 20 years of sitting in traffic. A kid who's maybe it's their first job, they don't know what responsibility they have no context for irresponsibility. Maybe they think they're being completely responsible by reading a anime comic while they're on a Zoom call. Like I don't know, right? So it's context setting that it's our generation's problem now. It's like it's up to us to teach, to mentor, to bring up, to help. And it's a difficult thing to do when you've never even met your employees in person.
There's a kind of a rabbit hole that I could have gone down with the work from home, but
Mm?
I'll take this in another avenue. What do you think makes a good consultant?
A good consultant? Well, there's a big difference between coaching and consulting, and plenty of times people get those confused. A coach is there to encourage you to be the best version of yourself, to push you harder, to set new limits so you can constantly achieve new things, always holding the bar high. So think about a trainer, right? I don't want to add another 5 pounds to this rep. And the trainer's like, I think you can do it, right? They're always trying to push you and encourage, hey, did you do your nutrition? Did you eat this? Clock this. They're on it. A consultant is hired in a very transactional manner. So a large company wants to buy, let's say, 10 companies over the next 5 years. And they're trying to figure out their capital outlay to do so. They're looking for the targets. They need some market research. They need someone to go in and define the parameters and build out the playbook. That's a consultant's job. Or a large organization just acquired another company and they need to hire a consultant to go in and do the integration, do an analysis of legacy systems and what needs to be optimized and updated, where the synergies are, where the future market opportunity is. That's a consultant. It's very, very transactional. Yes, naturally, there's some coaching in consulting because you're always making recommendations. So a recommendation would say something like, we've identified these 3 middle level leaders that can ascend over the next 3 to 4 years for these 4 reasons. We've identified this person is most likely going to retire in the next 2 years and we need to bring someone up. Or we've identified some white space in the market. You have some software that's not fully being utilized. If we invested in it, maybe we can target this new market. That's very consultant territory. You're looking for exponentiality. You're looking for scale. You're looking for an opportunity where 1 + 1 = 10 constantly. You're always looking for that. So for my clients, I'm always thinking, well, we have to build out a roadmap. First and foremost, we need a game plan. And that game plan needs to be a strategic map first. We need to have a reason for why we're doing what we're doing. We need an answer for everything that we're doing. And in that strategy is a series of tests, hypotheses, bets we're going to make, investments we're going to make, right? There's some things that we have to stop doing, some non-negotiables. There's this whole parameter. So a consultant looks at the world that way. I can't walk into a business and not think of all the ways to improve it. It's like at the end of the Matrix, Neo, all he sees is numbers. It's like a coder, right? You just can't not look at something and think areas to improve it. Whereas the coach is a very one-to-one relationship. It's very personal, right? So what makes a good consultant is you need to have a lot of experience getting under the hood of hundreds, thousands of companies. I've looked at thousands of companies. I know what P&Ls look like in all kinds of industries. I know what growth rates look like, what customer acquisition should look like. I could give you benchmarks and baseline numbers. I know what acquisition multiples are in various industries across countries. I mean, we can get into it if you want to get deep into the game. If you want to be the baddest, you got to be that level of bad. And the only way you're going to get there is getting real experience. So go work with a consulting firm. Like that's where you're going to learn it. Or start some of your own businesses. There's no greater teacher to be a phenomenal consultant than owning a few of your own businesses and having some wins and having some failures. That will make you very sharp Now, you don't have to have the level of experience that I do because remember, I started consulting when I didn't have much of this. I just had the drive to want to learn. I had intellectual curiosity. I'm a business nerd. If there's a business book to read, I've read it. I've studied the greats because that's the realm I've wanted to play. That's the sandbox I've wanted to be in. So if you want to be a great consultant, that would be my recommendation is like get a lot of experience under your belt. Probably the easiest thing you can do is pick an industry. So you say, hey, I want to work in advertising. Great, go be an advertising consulting. It's going to be a lot easier than being a generalist. I should have done that 20 years ago, but now I'm a specialized generalist.
That was the biggest thing too with when I started my company, that I wanted to be like everything for everyone. I just like wanted, I
Yeah.
wanted the business, right? And it's hard to say no to people, especially when you're starting off.
It is.
So, would there be any piece of advice even you would give? When I started, I was 24, and my 24-year-old self, when I'm like, no, I don't want to. I just want the money coming in. What would you say?
Well, niching down is important because it shows that you have expertise. And I think niching down is probably more important now than it probably was when I was coming up because of the internet. So, in the age of the internet, everything is, you can find whatever flavor you want. You don't really like this flavor of vanilla, that's fine. There's a million flavors of vanilla. Which flavor do you want? And it's about micro marketing. It's about smallest viable audience. So if you can say, I know advertising very well, okay, that's cool, great. So you can help me get awareness and reach, yes. I know advertising for SaaS companies. Awesome, that's totally different than just knowing advertising. I know how to do lead generation. Okay, that's even more interesting. I know how to do lead generation for SaaS companies. We do lead generation for SaaS companies that are doing 20 million plus. Okay, great. We do lead generation for SaaS companies, but it's not just SaaS, it's financial SaaS. All right, well, now we're talking, right? So who would you rather talk to if you're a financial SaaS company? Someone who specializes in B2B financial SaaS lead gen, or someone who just generally knows advertising, right?
And is it ever a worry that, like, you, at some point, that you run out of the market share because you're gonna go so niche?
Oh, the market share is massive. The market share is massive. I mean, just always imagine this. At any given time, there's always an 800-pound gorilla that you really have you don't have a snowball's chance in hell to topple them. You just don't if you're a small business. Because those 800-pound gorillas, at least the ones that I know, they're global. They're massive, huge footprints. They have more money to spend than you'll ever have. They can have multi-million dollar losses as a bet. It doesn't matter. It can just roll off their back because they're so big and they have such a massive footprint. So you can't play that game. You just cannot play that game. There's not even point. There's no point even trying to fight it. You're better off saying, here's 100 people, and then we're going to turn that 100 people to 150, 200, 300. We're going to go. If you think total addressable market, serviceable addressable market, and then serviceable attainable market, it's called the TAM, SAM, SOM. TAM, SAM, SOM. You will say the total addressable market for anyone that needs B2B marketing. We think there's 20,000 companies out there. Great. Of those 20,000, maybe only 10% of them, for whatever reason, are reasonable targets for us. Maybe out of those 20,000, some people are overseas. We don't want to work overseas. Some people are low dollar amount. We don't want the low dollar amount. So you bring them down to the SOM. And you say, okay, about 10% of them we think we can target. Now, of that 10%, we think the realm of expectations, we could win like 1% of them. So that's 200 customers. I'm just making up a hypothetical. But find me an agency that wouldn't be happy with 200 customers. I mean, most agencies, and I know a lot of agency owners, for a small business, 30 to 50 clients. For a small agency, average agency doing about $3 to $5 million in revenue, doing whatever you do, whether you're content or ads or whatever, let's say a small $3 to $5 million business has about 30 to 50 clients. Right? So if you want to get to 10 million, you're going to go from 50 to 100. You're still not even anywhere scratching the surface of, the TAM, SAM, SOM, your obtainable market. So yeah, go small, start small. Small is way easier, way easier. I prefer to start businesses with no money whenever I can. I prefer to get clients sold before I even have the product built. You know, I mean, you and I could start a business tomorrow and have our first client because you're connected, I'm connected. All we have to do is figure out something to sell them, and then boom, we have a business. We don't need business cards and websites, and we don't need any of that stuff. We're just in business. We don't even need a LLC and a DBA and a bank account. It's just a Venmo. That'll work. You know, and we're in business. If we can find 2 people that like that thing, great. You know, and then 3, and then 4, and before you know it, a year or 2 down the road, we've had 20, 30 clients. We have all these testimonials. We're doing pretty good. And we could do that with a pretty basic product. Do we need to offer 80 things? No. Do we need 8? Probably not. 1 is good enough. If it's great.
Yeah, people get a little bit too fancy before even starting the business, and they want to make sure everything is
Don't be cute. Don't be cute.
perfectly in check before
Yeah,
starting. I can't
exactly.
say I haven't done that, to be fair.
I do it. I do it to this day. It's just, it's human nature to, it's self-preservation is what it is. If you think what we don't want to do is we don't want to fail. So the inverse of not failing is, well, if I have a lot out there, then I have more cover, more protection, right? If I have a tribe around me, if I have a lot of like, you know, more swords and more spears and more rocks and more ways to protect myself. But, you know, we're not cavemen anymore. It's like we don't need all these things. It's not really protection. It's just you're wasting your time. And that's the biggest crime of all, is not being focused and kind of meandering and really not asking the clients what they want, or the prospective customers. That's the biggest crime of all.
The other thing that it caught my eye in the interview that you were doing too, or my attention, was that a lot of companies, they're making like 1 million or 3 million, and they've been making it for a long period of time, but they're like, oh, we're okay at this level. What do you think separates those companies that are making 3 million from the ones that are making 30 million, and how do you bridge the gap between those two?
Yeah, so it's called the Griner model. Griner model is basically these steps. At every step up the model, you need different thinking, different talent, different resources, different skills, different systems, different to go up each ladder. So if you want to be a $30 million company versus a $3 billion company, you're going to need different skill sets, thinking, the whole bit. So we call it the $3 million wall because that's where most small businesses get stuck. Statistically, most small businesses just can't break past that first $3 million. And they could stay there for 20 years. Sometimes breaking past the $3 million is luck. Sometimes it's a client had some outlier thing occur for them. And because they had an outlier thing, that's also going to help you. Right? It wasn't that you had phenomenal business development chops. It's just that your clients, if you had those 20, 30 clients, 1 or 2 of them at some point in time is going to have some exponentiality that has nothing to do with you as a marketing agency or consulting. Just them doing their business, they're going to have some exponentiality. So when they break past their 3 million, 5 million, $50 million, whatever wall, they're going to take you along the ride. That happens a lot. So we see this when we look at historical growth for agencies. And when an agency was doing 3 million, 4 million, and then all of a sudden they did 10 million. You're like, what happened there? They're like, one of our clients, you know, they got acquired by some PE firm and they dumped in $2 million into their ad spend, and we were the beneficiary of that. So now they're trying to capture lightning in a bottle. That's one. The other way, the way that you should try to do this, is hyper intentionality. So you just know your business model like the back of your hand. How much does it cost to acquire a customer? Where are we getting them from? How much time, effort, labor, talent, resources does it take to service that customer? Do we have systems in place that allow us to deliver repeatable results in a very efficient manner, like McDonald's? Can our systems scale, or do they break after a certain point? So if our systems are very scalable, like for example, you're just selling books, it's very scalable to sell books. You can sell 1 million books. It doesn't take any more effort, right? It's very scalable. What's hard to scale is custom work. Custom work is very hard to scale. That's why you need to charge. Like I charge a lot of money to serve as a consultant because I can't scale me, or it's hard to scale a few people on my team. So I'd rather just charge the 6-figure, whatever it takes to do the thing, because why not? I don't need 50 clients. It's very easy to run lifestyle business. But I'm clear that it's not a business that's scalable. I'm clear about that. Consulting is not. And you can build consulting be scalable if you create products that can scale. So when you're building a service-based business, most of the businesses in America are largely service-based businesses. It's our number one export, by the way, is services in the country. If you can build your systems in a way so you know how scale occurs. So for every 5 clients, we need to hire a new employee. Every 5 clients, we hire a new employee. Every 5 clients, or whatever your metric is. You got to know your business model like the back of your hand. So how do we acquire customers? That needs to be repeatable. You need to have a growth engine that's just always churning. It costs us about $1,000 to acquire a new customer. It takes us about 4 weeks to get that person. That new customer stays with us on average 12 months. That's your lifetime value. It costs us 30% to service that customer. We need 3 team members for every 12 of those customers. This is why we always have someone in the chamber to scale and ascend as we bring on the next, right? You have everything just dialed in your model. Now you know how to crank this thing up. But your business model needs to make good logic. So if it costs you $1,000 to acquire a customer, that customer only stays with you for 4 weeks. That's not a good business model, because you spend all that time. You also have to know how to upsell, how to cross-sell, you create products that make your clients really sticky. So I've worked with some companies that have clients for 10, 12 years. They're like, hey, as soon as we acquire a customer, they're with us forever because we're super sticky. Well, that's a great business, and it's low cost to service. Awesome. Look at financial advisors. Oh my goodness, financial advisors, like that's a great business because they're getting 1% on average assets under management, and they could take on 100, 150 clients as just one person. So very scalable. Once you know your model, you've tested the model because you've worked on the business, not in the business, you've worked on it. Then it's just a matter of pouring gasoline on the fire and seeing where your break points are, right? So that would be the first piece to move past the 3 million. A lot of times you get to the first 3 million in like real messy kind of way. It just kind of happens. You've been in business for 3 or 4 years. I think it takes about 5 years to get to that first break point. And then you kind of hover there. The next piece is sophistication of thought. You need to increase the sophistication of your thinking. And we say it's the known, the unknown, and the unknown. So in the unknown arena, that's where exponentiality happens. This is where you got to bring in consultants, advisors. You need some form of accountability that you probably haven't had up until this point. You need maybe executive coaching. You need to invest in your team. You need to make sure that you're not just increasing your sophistication level, you're increasing the sophistication level of your team. You have a lot of transparency that you have to create in all these systems so everyone can move together. A lot of times business owners are like, I don't want anyone to know anything about the business, and I'm just going to invest in myself, but I don't really want to invest in them because I don't really like them that much, right? You have to, like Jack Welch, famous CEO, he used to fire the bottom 10% every year. Every year. If you're the bottom 10%, you're out. Bottom 10%, you're out. So guess what? You create a culture of people saying, I don't want to be the bottom 10%, right? It's very different than the remote culture, which is like, I just don't want to be seen. If I'm not seen, maybe I can't get pointed at, right? So it's like, what are you building? A lot of times people just start companies just so they have a different job, right? But they're not building with intention. So anything I get involved with, I just think very intentionally about it. But leadership is everything. The fish stinks from the head. If there's problems in the organization, you have to start at the CEO level and then work your way down. What are you allowing to occur in the business? Right? What standards have you set or have you not set? What's said, what's unsaid? What kind of toxicity are you allowing? Are you allowing low-level players, C-level, D-level players to stay on the bench? Why? A players don't want that, right? So you want to try to retain the A players and retain the A player clients or customers. So you put all that into a pot, and that's how you start getting past that 3 million, 30 million, and so on. I can tell you firsthand, most of the large organizations I work with, the big companies, I'm one of a sea of consultants that these guys hire, in many cases, a sea of executive advisors and coaches. They're just constantly investing in that type of stuff because they understand the importance of it. But you go to a small business, they've never hired anybody to come in and take a look and do a top-down and give them some recommendations, do a strategy session. Like, they'll never invest in that. That's just, it's me, me, me. It's too much identity. It's a lot of ego wrapped up in small businesses.
You mentioned a little bit at the very beginning as well, just because I want to also keep this one within time frame.
Yeah, sure.
You mentioned I could talk to you for hours, but I want to respect your time.
It's all
too.
good.
That especially if you're like 25 or younger, it'd be a good idea for you to like actually go and physically have a job and have accountability rather than the work from home culture. But let's say that somebody is past 25, they've already been working in a certain field, they've been going into work 9 to 5, and they're in a certain field like advertising. And now they say, okay, I want to start my own company, my own advertising company, very niche, specifically in SaaS, which is the field that I'm in SaaS. What would be the very first piece of advice that you would give them for day one?
Before you take on a client, know your business model like the back of your hand. Know how this business scales. Know your numbers to a maniacal level. Like, I should be able to sit there and just rip on you like in Shark Tank, and you should be able to come back at me bulletproof. This is the years I spent doing business plans. So the most prepared are usually the ones that are best equipped to go forward. So you should be, yeah, you know, my estimate is going to take, you know, X to acquire a customer. We think they'll stay this long. We think the average revenue per, we think, right? Of course, you're going to test that and see what works and what doesn't work, but you should know how your business scales. That would be the first thing. Don't just go try to get a client. Know how your business scales.
And even if this is like, since it is their first business, if they're like, oh, well, I don't know, like, from what I've seen in the industry, like people are pricing it at this much, the business, and they're asking, well, should I be pricing it at this much? What kind of feedback would you give somebody who they're like, I don't even know where to start? Would you give them some kind of resource? Would you point
With
them at
price?
with
My
price,
first
yeah.
recommendation is try to sell at the highest price tag you possibly can, and then work your way down. It's easier to go, what do they say? Like, it's easier to go down than it is to go up. But it's your time. You're trading your life for this thing. Why sell yourself short? If you honestly are legit and you can actually pull it off and you think you're better than the competitor, then charge so. Like I told you, I have no problem charging a six-figure for work because I know I can deliver. I have historically over and over and over and over again. Well, you know, I know what I'm doing. I'm a professional. So if you're not a professional and you're just kind of hoping and taking some money from someone and learning on their dime, well, you can. Not to say you can't, and there's plenty of people out there doing that. So a lot of people are being very successful at it. So my approach to price is, yes, there's market sensitivity, there's this, that, and the other, but if you build something that's truly unique and remarkable, like people will remark about how good it is, then you should be able to write your own check. But you have to know how what you do multiplies what they do, right? This is called value-based pricing, where you say, oh, how much does it cost? And it's like, well, what's the value that we're going to create from working together? If we work together and I'm able to generate an extra $1 million, shouldn't I participate in the upside of that? Versus, it's $999 a month. That's like, I'm far less interested in $999 a month and far more interested in, can this price put an extra $1 million in your pocket? Why don't we first figure out how to get the next $1 million, and then we'll work our way back to what this thing actually costs.
That's a good point. Going back to when you were 25, is there any piece of advice that you would give your 25-year-old self?
Yeah, I was crazy. I was a crazy person. I jumped ship all the time. I had a lot of wild energy. Start stuff, stop stuff, you know, just burn it down. Like I had a lot of wild energy. So if I were to go back, I would say, focus. You know, I would also say be very careful with who you roll with. Be very intentional, and always try to increase your network with the right people that are going to bring you to where you ultimately want to go. When you're young, you don't really know where you want to go. You know, this is a benefit for going to college because it's a networking. opportunity, right? You're creating relationships with other people that have ambition, right? I grew up on the streets, so it's like you didn't have that really, you know. At least I didn't know about it until I was much older, and I started meeting all these other people in business. I was like, wait a minute, I could have been hanging with you guys the whole time, you know? So just be intentional about who's in your circle and focus. Like, get really serious about who you are, what you want out of life, journal, get it down, and just get after it.
You journal as well?
A lot, yeah, very consistently. Yeah, for years, probably for 20 years, at least. Yeah.
Do you ever look back on the journal on the notes or?
Yeah, I do. I do all the time. Um, what I always look for is the consistency, the through lines. When you've been doing it for as long as I've been doing it, you'll start to see consistencies. And that to me is the big payoff. It's like I have always wanted a simple life. I've always wanted less. I've always been somewhat of a minimalist, but I've always been very passionate about helping people. Always been very passionate. I've cared far less about specific industries and more about the heart. I've always prayed for wisdom. I've always prayed for wisdom, not extra knowledge, not money, not things. I've never prayed for things. I've prayed for wisdom. So my hope is that as I've increased in years, that I've become wiser and wiser and wiser. And hopefully when the day the good Lord takes me home, I'm wise. I'm a wise man. I'm seeking wisdom. I want to be known as a wise human so I can help people and give them the right information, not more information. Help them extract. I want to help people reduce and extract and just get down to the essence of what matters in this life. There's so much money out there. Yeah, rad. Let's go make a whole bunch. That's cool. But are you a good human? Are you respected in your community? Do your kids respect you? Does your wife respect you? Do you have good friendships? Are you a good son, brother, daughter, father? Like, that's what this is all about. And money fuels that. Money allows you to do more things. And having a business is one of the greatest ways to create wealth in, you know, in America, and capitalism, and things of all that nature, and, you know, creating opportunities for other and helping other people become those things along their journey. But as you grow, kind of like the Griner model, you should also ascend and not become more selfish over time, not hoard more over time, because you can't take it. I'll leave you on this. There's this analogy. My dad had this friend. He was a runner, and he ran to this top of the hill one day. And he gets to the top of the hill, and on one side he sees all these beautiful homes and, you know, multi-million-dollar everything, and the cars and the Porsches and all this stuff. And on the other side of this hill was a cemetery. So it's like you spend your whole entire life to acquire these things only to end up here, where you will die. And all those things will rust, and they'll go away. So what is it that you're actually after? I know what I'm after. I'm clear about that. I have no qualms about who I'm trying to be and what I'm after and the kind of value I'm bringing to the world. I don't know what other people are after. It's not my job to tell people what they're after. I just know my place in this universe.
Nice. There was one last question that I didn't want to ask you because that would have been a really good place to end the note on. But
Sure. Yeah, no, Blake, bring it on.
I feel like if I don't, my audience won't like this. But with the future of technology, of course, the hot pressing topic, which is AI. What do you see as being the future of technology?
Well, the floor is dropping out. The bottom is dropping out. If you're kind of going back to that bottom 10%, if you're the bottom 10, 20% of workers in America, you're going to have to find some other kind of employment. There's just no reason to have someone flipping burgers at this point. Really, for the liability and the risk, or making fries or saying, do you need fries with that at the drive-thru? Now, it's cool to have it, and it's a great job for teenagers and all that, and that, I get that. You don't really need someone scooping ice cream or making your cup of coffee. We're working with a company right now that's having robotic farmers, and they're just sending robots into the field to do the crop. So the bottom is dropping out, and it will continue to drop out. Look at content creation and ChatGPT and Claude and all these things. Look at building software with tools like Replit and Vibe coding and all that fun stuff. Content creation, even with tools like Opus and Veed, and you just upload a link, and then boom, there's everything you need. You look at Google VO with all the, you know, the automated humans. You know, I don't know if you've seen those videos, but it's basically just it's pretty scary. You know, tools like HeyGen, let alone all the, you know, like Excel tools and PowerPoint tools and Canva and all this stuff. So if you found meaningful work in that field, it's going to go away. I've seen it happen. I can't tell you how many people I've seen lose their jobs in the last couple of years, and we've seen agencies just get decimated, just get completely wiped out because they were once doing those types of jobs and now they're gone. So this is why it's so important that you become a craftsman. You have to be better than the tool, and the tool should allow you to become better at the craft. So that's what I would say. I honestly think, come find me in 5 years, I'd be shocked if, 1 million, 2 million jobs aren't gone out of the U.S. economy. That we're here. Now, those people will go find something else to do. That's always the way it works. I don't know what that will be. Maybe they'll become contractors because we need more of those. We definitely need more people in the blue collar fields and mechanics and plumbers and things of that nature. AI won't do that, at least not yet. So I honestly think that those analog jobs are going to be the next big boom, especially because the baby boomers that own a lot of those businesses are selling those businesses. So if you had a really successful electrical company, electrician, maybe now's a great time if you're 30 and want to get into the field. I wouldn't go into things that you like very clearly are going to be wiped out with AI because it's coming for everybody. I'm already seeing it. And we have clients that have we have one client that has 5,000 employees, and you have to ask the question. You have to ask the question. Why 5,000 employees? You're not allowed not to ask that question in my field. And when you get the answer, when the answer comes back and says, well, we could actually automate at least 10% of these. So once you find those tools, which exist, customer service tools, chatbots, all that kind of stuff, and if they're as good, if maybe even a little better than the humans, then you're confronted with a choice. And that choice is, do we spend another extra couple $1 million, or do the shareholders want that in the profit at the end of the year as dividends? And that's the conversation every single business is having right now. I cannot have a single conversation about AI and automation and how to streamline the workforce every single day, multiple times a day.
And for the entrepreneur, is it looking optimistic for the next 5, 10, 20 years for them?
Always. It's always optimism. We're the forever optimists. There will always be opportunity. There will always be opportunity if you know how to look for it. Because the market needs smart humans to do things. So if you're a smart human who can do something, then the world's your oyster.
Perfect. Well, we'll leave it with that note. So thank you so much, Tim, for having you on. This felt like a 6-figure consulting call, to be honest. But I appreciate how much value you added. If there's any notes that you want to leave people with, where exactly that they can find you?
Yeah. I go by Tim, the Inside Man. The Inside Man is an acronym for Tim. So it's the consulting business I started 20-something years ago. I run a Substack. I've been running it for quite a long time. I have a really great audience and community there. So I think it's Tim, the Inside Man. You just type in Tim, the Inside Man. You'll find me. You'll find me on LinkedIn. You'll find me on Substack. I'm here to help, here to advise, here to consult, here to bring value to the world. So if you need something, or there's someone out there that needs what I got, shoot me a note.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Tim.
Oh, also I got to mention one thing. I wrote a book called Do Good Work. It's on Amazon. Do Good Work. Do Good Work is just a collection of thoughts for the younger generation getting into the workforce on how they need to get their mind right to do good work, to excel and succeed in their career.
Nice. I'm going to check that one out too.
Cool.
Do Good Work. Well, thanks so much, Tim. Tim Martinez, the CEO and founder of The Inside Man. Thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate your time.
Jordan, you got it. Anytime. We'll talk soon. Thanks.